Hi, I'm Joel Sharpton from the Articulate Coven Podcast, and here's what you might want to know before you watch Interview with the Vampire Season 1 on Netflix. Behind the scenes details. The series stars Jacob Anderson of Game of Thrones fame, Sam Reed, who you might have seen on Belle or The Newsreader, and Eric Bogosian, who you probably saw on Billions or Succession, but has had a great career going all the way back to the 80s. Mark Johnson is the executive producer of not only this show, but all the series that have and might come from Anne Rice's works. AMC has optioned 18 total books from her that include not only every book in the Vampire Chronicles, but also the Lives of the Mayfair Witches series and a couple that live in between those two. Anne also wrote a series of books about a mummy, and a series about werewolves, and a series about angels, but none of those series seem to be included in this deal. So we're not talking about any of that. Yet. Rollin Jones is the creator and showrunner for this series, Interview with the Vampire, and is an announced and devoted fan of not only Anne's novels, but particularly the second novel in this series, The Vampire Lestat. Anne Rice and her son Christopher were involved in the production of this series, as well as the predecessor to this series, a previous deal that existed at Hulu. But both Anne and Christopher left over creative differences, without any public elaboration from either party. And then sadly, Anne Rice passed away. All this in the lead up to the release of Interview with the Vampire Season 1 on AMC and AMC Plus in fall of 2022. So, what are the Vampire Chronicles? Started in the 1970s with the original novel Interview with the Vampire. This is a lush and luxurious vampire creation of Anne Rice, New Orleans' native daughter and the Queen of the Damned herself. The series spans the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s, and told us the stories of Louis de Pointe-de-Lac and Lestat de Lioncourt, and the vast cast of characters that Lestat referred to as the Coven of the Articulate. So what's this first book about? Louis de Pointe-de-Lac is a vampire, born in the 1700s, who dictates his story to a young reporter in 1970s San Francisco. He tells of his maker, Lestat, their daughter, Claudia, and the rises and falls of his 200-plus-year vampiric life. Not only has the book become an international smash and a genre classic, but a very successful film adaptation was released in 1994 starring Messieurs Cruz and Pitt. You might have seen it. Honestly, it's still a damn fine film. At the time that movie was in production, Anne Rice was loudly and publicly angry about Cruz's casting, in disbelief that he could carry off the role of Lestat. When she finally saw the film on a pre-premiere videotape sent to her by executive producer David Geffen, she immediately took out full-page ads in both the Los Angeles and New York papers, apologizing to Cruz and the production, singing its praises as a beautiful adaptation that remained true to the spirit of her story. So, how is this TV series different? First and foremost, there is a time period change. The story Louis tells is set in the early 1900s and transposes Louis's plantation and enslaved owning farmer to a black Creole brothel and gambling den owner. Louis is still profiting off the bodies of others and eternally wrapped up in Catholic guilt about that and other things. The race switch was a big problem for a lot of book purists, as was the time period shift. The 1700s are interesting, no doubt, but to me, we've seen that story already told pretty well on film, and we've seen that time period too many times on film. The most interesting parts of this book take place in New Orleans, so why not start there from the beginning? Also, the jazz era of the 1910s and 1920s, that's the highlight of the first season of this show, would have been missed entirely by doing a completely faithful adaptation. And finally, and most impactful, the switch of both Louis and Claudia to African-American characters adds layers of discussion and meaning to the show through the portrayal of race relations in both America and abroad. No spoilers. The other giant change from the film to the TV series, though not that big a change from the books, is the open homosexuality and bisexuality of the main characters. In the novels, Louis and Lestat are definitely not just roommates. They are a romantic couple, though in most of Anne's novels, the physical sexual acts aren't really present. It's a very long story, that's at least got to wait until Vampire Chronicles 201, okay? That's a later video. But they are in love with each other. They kiss, they cuddle, they're jealous when they show others affection, the whole 9 yards. The TV series displays all of that messiness from the start and wears that LGBTQIA+ representation on its sleeve. The movie, starring giant publicly straight male stars in the very homophobic 1990s, did not display that sexuality, though it was at least hinted at between Brad Pitt and Antonio Banderas' characters. To be fair, though, a cardboard box has pretty good chemistry with Antonio. Whew. Personally, I think this change is great. It was a side of the books that a lot of people had deluded themselves into thinking wasn't there, but Anne had made it clear over the years, very clear, it always has been there. Okay, we get it. Messy gay vampires. But who are they again? Louis de Pointe-de-Lac is our lead. Young black Creole hustler trying to keep his formerly rich family afloat with a troubled brother, a judgmental mother, and a sister on the verge of marriage. Lestat de Lioncourt, a very flamboyant blonde French vampire newly arrived in New Orleans in the early 1900s who falls in love with Louis and his violent temper. The first season consists of 7 episodes and is on Netflix starting today. Season 2, consisting of 8 episodes, will likely end up there eventually if we're all very good boys and girls. And in the meantime, you could purchase it directly through various digital stores, or you can subscribe and stream it on AMC+. Season 3 has already been announced and officially greenlit. However, it's unofficially in production this fall, so it's possible that we could see a premiere of that season as early as late 2025. More likely, it'll premiere on AMC and AMC Plus in the spring of 2026. The twist of the series, if there is one, versus the movie or the book, is that this isn't the first interview with the vampire. Louis and the reporter Daniel Malloy got together in the 1970s just as they did in the novels. But something happened at the end of that interview, and Daniel never released his book. Now, 40 some odd years later, Daniel has been invited back to interview Louis again to get the real story. So that's it. It's sexy, it's spooky, it's beautifully shot and performed, and the soundtrack and score are to die for. And as I've already told you, there's more coming in the future, so there's no worry that AMC isn't committed to telling us this story. If you find that you love this show, there is already a sister show, Mayfair Witches, which is a much less faithful adaptation than Interview, but theoretically will connect to this series eventually. AMC has even already announced a spin-off show, Talamasca, that will feature the psychic detective-type organization featured in many of Anne's novels, though they never got a novel of their own. The Talamasca track and monitor the witches, the vampires, and other things that go bump in the night within Anne's universe, and that series is set to premiere in 2025 and is almost done with production right now. Season 2 of Mayfair Witches should premiere on AMC in early 2025, and that season has also been completed as well. I'll be back on this channel with more videos, including a discussion of the Season 1 finale of Interview with the Vampire and what that means as you wait for Season 2. I'll also bring you a true Vampire Chronicles 201 type video where I give you a glimpse into the broader world of Anne's books. With our podcast, The Articulate Coven, we've covered IWTV, that's short for Interview with the Vampire, with full episode discussions of both Season 1 and Season 2, as well as a full rewatch discussion of Season 1, all available both here on this channel and anywhere you listen to podcasts. I'd suggest listening to our first watch of the show. If you are also on your first watch, we try hard not to spoil anything that might be coming later on. Whether this is your first watch or your 100th watch of Interview with the Vampire, let's all enjoy Interview with the Vampire Season 1 on Netflix and hope that they and AMC will bring us seasons for years and years to come.